What's going on, boys and squirrels? Today we have a little special treat for you. We're going to be installing the Revotec fan kit, and this is the one for the wide radiator. Pretty heavy boy. She's a little bit bigger than I thought it would be, but essentially the way this works is it replaces your mechanical fan so that you free up a little bit of horse puppies, you know. And with a car that makes like 71 horsepower from the factory, you're gonna kind of want that just a little bit. But anyway, so the kit comes with brackets to mount this, zip ties, a little bit of hardware, some quality stuff, and then we have here a little kit with a little thermostat. This will activate the fan at certain temperatures. Anyway, we're gonna read this properly and we're gonna figure out how to do this. And we're gonna set it to put the fan on at 10 degrees maximum power. Just kidding. I think for this is like, it should be the same as when the thermostat opens.
I would say so. Yeah.
But I'm gonna do some research into that and figure that out. I.e. read that.
Show the instructions that it came with. Very little.
Well, I mean, this is the instructions just for setting it up. So hopefully I don't install it upside down like last time. And then it'll be, you know, straightforward. And then there's separate instructions for this kit. And the reason why, I believe, is because you can buy these things separately in case you wanted to figure out your own way to turn on the fan if you want to just switch under the dash. And yeah, so the first step we're gonna do is take off our radiator hose, just like that. Usually there's clamps on it. I already undid them. Take off our cap, chuck her aside. We're gonna remove the radiator essentially. So what's gonna happen is there's 4 bolts holding it on, simple, and then up here we got one more hose to take off. A little bit of a tight boy. Oh yeah,
oh.
You want to leak the coolant on the floor, it's good. But anyway, so it should be a simple process. I'm gonna hop over here with a wrench and we're gonna take this radiator out. Alright, so now that we've got the radiator unbolted, we can lift her out of here.
Oh, she's still leaking.
A little bit of coolant inside.
Tilt her to the right a bit if you can.
This guy's in the way, so you can take off these little hoses. They're, you know, you're gonna drip everywhere. It's good for the paint. She's out of there. Oh, there was some dirty colors coming out of this radiator. Might be time for a flush.
Maybe.
Okay, so this fan bolt is gonna be just 4 bolts. Yeah, so we'll save all the bolts and stuff, obviously, in case, you know, I want to put this back on. But yeah, so once this is off, I'll get back to you and then we'll clean her up. Because this is a suction fan, we're gonna go ahead and mount this guy right here, and these will go through and up like that, just like that on the other side, and then tear down, and then we can go ahead and put these black pieces, the spacers, over there. Now these will go on top. Put a washer on each one. Screw her in place just like that. Make sure you cross thread them all. And then the next one, oh, I can't even reach these guys. Same process. Then you want to torque these down to like just hand tight. I actually don't know what the torque specs are. It doesn't say. So we're gonna give her whatever the pinky's got torque in. So you might as well replace all your hardware, or run to the store and buy the wrong hardware.
Didn't happen before.
Up to you.
No.
And then we'll lift this guy up a little bit. Make sure to do as much scratching as possible.
Right way.
Drop her down. And then we can see where these line up to the original, or not the original, but the existing holes. Because on mine, I drilled them a little bit lower so that I had some clearance. I was having some clearance issues with this. So the way it's gonna work is we're actually gonna have to cut a little section of this hose out and install that piece through. And I'm thinking the easiest way to do that is to mark this with a Sharpie or some sort of marker, tape or something. And then what I can do is, tape will be easier because tape you can make it go exactly like straight around. But what I'm thinking of doing is taking the hose off completely to cut, inserting the piece in the middle, and then putting it back. This way we have the flexibility to work on this. Okay, so the kit comes with these supplied connectors. So you're gonna want to fit this one on the ground, and this ground will go to the fan going in through this connector, which will snap in place, and then this will connect to the connector on the actual fan. And then you got this side, which is your, I guess, your power going into the fan from the blue wire, and same thing, you cut the end there, slip her through, crimp her on, and then this one will also click into here, and then that'll go on to the fan. I'll show you when it's done. Okay, so I have an idea kind of how I want to run everything. So essentially the switch that's going to turn on the fan based on the temperature is going to be over there where the radiator hose connects, and then the wire will come along through the front. I will kind of tie it all down, and then it's going to come over here to the relay. The relay is going to have a ground over here. We're going to drill into the frame, just a little tiny hole for that, and then we're also going to have the ground for this fan, which will plug into there over in this area. This blue wire will connect into the positive side of that connector for the fan, and that'll be all wired up there. I'll clean it all up, it'll be nice. Then our power, which is this guy, will run through the loom that is already existing in the car. It runs along the frame for the lights and the horn and whatnot, and then it's going to come up all the way here, and it's going to make a little turn over here into the dash that will go to a switch, which is this little guy, and this little switch is going to be able to turn the fan off when the car is off. This way, if I was to run this wire directly to the battery, the fan would stay on even if the car is off, and it would basically draw power from the battery until the temperature is, you know, below 70 degrees or so, or basically 98 degrees. That's what I'm going to set my fan to. Anyway, from there it's going to run to a fuse. From this, after the switch, I'll go to a fuse for a 20 amp fuse, and then it's going to go into the battery for power. And I guess you could run this so that it's on the ignition, so when you turn the ignition on, then it'll send power to this, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to run it on a switch for reasons, and it'll be a totally separate thing. And yeah, and then it'll just be another little thing onto that cluster of wires there, but I'll make it look nice, don't worry. Okay, so it's another day. I've got a little bit of this stuff run so far, so I'm thinking putting the relay somewhere over here. I'll tuck away all these wires. I already made these connections. I'm gonna figure out where the grounds are gonna go for the relay and for the temperature sending unit there. Sorry, the thermostat, I guess it would be called. But so right now what I'm doing is I am running this wire in through here in the dash. There's a little hole there, and there's a grommet which I can push back in and hide that. This wire has to be covered still. This is coming from the battery. I'll show you how I did the fuse setup on that. And this wire is going to be tucked through this loom, which goes all the way down across the frame rail into here. So once I get that all situated, I'll make a joint little connection over here. This way I can get to it in case something happens to it. And then from there, I guess, yeah, we'll work on doing that fuse situation, and I'll show you how I have this switch under the dash. So there's one thing that kind of sucks about this kit, I will be honest, is these plugs. I know this is supposed to click in there and hold in place, but like, no matter what you do, it doesn't hold on. And I know maybe you'll think like, oh, it's because of shrink wrap or shrink tubing here, and it's not, because I tried beforehand and it still didn't lock into place. Like, I see these little like tabs, they're just, I guess they're too long, so they don't actually ever touch the part that has to latch onto inside there, and they pretty much max out over here. So I guess I can try to cut these a little bit shorter and then prop them up. Maybe that'll help. I'll give it a shot. Okay, so I filed the ends down a little bit and now they're secure in place and they won't pull out. Okay, so far I've got mostly everything covered up in this jumble of wires. So in this mess, there's wires going everywhere. That's why I have this here to hide it. Now I want to see any colors. That red wire is going to be covered up by a thin little guy of one of these. These two grounds, not really sure how I'm going to get rid of them. Or how I'm going to mount them, actually, I should say. I'm thinking just one to go on one side and one to go on the other side, just mount it on the frame. I know it's going to suck, it's going to be out in the open, but I mean, I don't know where else to put them. I could put them right here and then not keep stuff on the side, or mount them down here. I don't know, out of the way. If I could drill into here, I could get these kind of out of the way, but again, this one doesn't even reach. So I don't know. I'm thinking of just putting them on the side of the frame right here. For now, if anything, I can fill it up with weld and cover it up if I change my mind. But yeah, then I gotta run this cable or fasten it down so it doesn't go anywhere. This, to be honest, I don't think this is gonna go anywhere or get into the belt. Like it would be pretty hard to. But worst case scenario, we can just zip tie to here. I know I hate zip ties, but I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, I also don't like the way this looks, so maybe we'll put one of those things on here too. But yeah, so we'll get that done and then I'll show you when it's all finished up. Okay, so I've got the two little grounds grounded down. Doesn't look the best, but I mean, it's kind of in a spot where nothing's gonna really hit it unless I turn the wheel all the way. Maybe some stones and rocks get to it. But it should be fine. We'll see. Yeah, worst case Ontario, we just go back to the original fan. I'll just keep it in the trunk just in case. JK. Yeah, hopefully nothing happens to this. Should be fine. Yes, it's a self-tapper. Yes, it looks like crap. I might go with something different later. Maybe hide these up here in the rat's nest. But yeah, so doesn't look that bad. I mean, there's wires everywhere here, but kind of blends in ish, maybe. Anyway, let's go on that side, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna start cutting the hose so we can fit the thermostat in place. I know the order of this is probably all mixed up, but basically I ran from the switch over here behind the dash to a fuse, up and over, hiding in here into, I think there's like a bunch of things going into this battery terminal that don't need to be, well, they need to be, but they shouldn't be the way they are set up. It's just kind of to hide that. But yeah, so basically what we're gonna do is figure out later on how to create a post that comes out to here, and I can have a lot more different things plugged into it so it looks pretty instead of this situation that's probably a fire hazard. But let's go into the dash and let's figure out the ground for the switch, and then the last thing we gotta do is put in this guy over here right into there, and then we can go ahead and put some coolant in here, connect the battery, see if she doesn't burn down, then she starts, and then yeah, we'll see how this fan works. Then we'll set the time correct, or the temperature correct, I mean, and yeah. Okay, so right under here beside the ignition, you've got the two switches that are kind of crudely set up. So the left one's going to be your radiator fan, and the right one is fog lights. Let's go ahead and see if we can hook up the thermostat. Okay, so now for the tricky part of getting this to shape and cutting it. Basically, you want to cut a spot that is just wide enough for this. Don't fall. Aw, rip. Imagine I broke it. Anyway, yeah, so you just want it cut just to fit that little plug in. This way your hose can go on this side and on this side and clamp on. So what I did was I marked it while it was on here, on the straightest part, which is right here, and I put a piece of tape around this so I can get myself a straight edge, and the tape is cut exactly as thick as I need it to be. So we can go and cut this now and see what happens. Okay, so now that little piece is cut off, this will go in place just like that. and of course this will be squished down a lot more down there, but they should fit just fine, and we can go ahead and start putting the clamps on just so we can get an idea of the shapes before we forget. Okay, so this is what it's going to kind of look like. So you got that little split in the middle. I chose to have my thermostat on the top. The reason being is when this is all plugged in, I can adjust it easily and have access to it from the outside without having to, you know, go inside and find something else. I mean, you can put it down and try to hide it this way. Don't worry about that oil. And then it'll be a lot tidier, but I'm gonna have mine on the top, easy access. So let's put her in. Okay, so that's the last of it. She's all clamped in place. I might get some better hose clamps later, and the wire kind of goes down there with a little bit of slack. Kind of crappy, but zip tied to the bottom of the frame and going onto that loom where it's kind of all hidden there. Again, it's nothing that looks too crazy. Like, of course, this looks out of place, but I mean, maybe I'll tuck her down here later on, give her a little zip tie down there. But for now, that's fine. And then I guess I'll fill her up with some coolant, and we'll take her outside and see what she does. Okay, so she's filled up with coolie boys, and we're gonna give her a start. Let's go and connect her. She's sparking a little bit. Good, nice connection. I know that's not on all the way, but it's enough to make it start for sure. I'll tighten this boy down a little bit. We'll crank her over and see if we can get her up to temp without any leaks. And then we're gonna go and adjust on this boy to get her to turn on right when we want her to. Okay, so let's give her some gas and see if she starts. Temperature gauge is not moving yet, so we'll get back to you when everything's all warmed up. Okay, so the fan is spinning right now, blowing lots of nice hot air. If we look at the temp gauge, since I turned on the fan, she just went down a little bit. So we're gonna take a look now. We want this fan to turn off when it gets to this mark, because that's how it's been before. This is hot, this is good. This is hot, this is good. Something like that, right? So if this starts cooling it down too much, then I'm gonna adjust it. As you can see right now, it's kind of cooling it down a little bit too much. So what I'm gonna do is just adjust her a little bit. Okay, there we go. You just turn her, basically turn that little thing there until the fan comes on at the ideal temperature. So right now she's on. Let's give her a little bit of tightening. And the fan is off. Okay, so let's see when the fan turns on. Ideally we want the fan to turn on when that gauge is a little bit hotter, when it's reading closer to the middle. So we're gonna keep on adjusting this screw right here until the fan turns on when it's warm. See the temp right in the middle, and the fan kicked on. So that's exactly how we want it. Now we can close her back up. Nice. And another thing that's good about this kit is that hose clamp is actually protecting the hose that would normally be touching that engine mount. And then I heard the fan turn off. Yep. Let's see what the temp is. Yep, it turned off because it was too cold. Sweet. So that's it, I guess that's how you install it, and it's working pretty good. I got the switch under the dash, I'll show you that. So when I want to leave the car, I just turn that off, and then I can turn the key, and she's good. Just like that. Now there's no parasitic drains to the battery, and that's it, she's good. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe. I hope you like this video. There's a lot of noise going on, but yeah, take care, comb your hair.